A major part of womanhood that the Barbie movie did not address is the fact that you become your mother.
Welcome to Wow True, the podcast of your wildest memes.
We're your one-stop internet culture shop, here to dissect what's going viral, why we care, and how this might affect our real human lives. I'm Barbie, Isabel.
And I'm Amanda, Barbie in a podcast dungeon. Anyone can be famous on the internet, so why not us?
So we need to first talk about your podcast dungeon, because you can't say podcast dungeon and not explain the podcast dungeon.
Yes, so this is the first episode I'm recording in my new apartment. My new apartment has a really bizarre feature in which there's just like
a dungeon.
A random, yeah, it's like a mini basement. Like that's effectively what it is. But it's just like one of those buildings that used to be something else and was like converted weirdly into apartments. And there's just some really weird design features as a result. I'm trying to turn this into a podcast dungeon, but it is very echoey because it's like 4 concrete walls. So hopefully my audio sounds okay. I put down a rug. I'm starting to put up some like foam panels. I put up some curtains. They're blue velvet because I felt like that was dungeony. Yeah, we're vibing. Trying to make my podcast dungeon podcast reality.
Yeah, I'm very pro podcast dungeon just on the pure existence of a podcast dungeon being very funny. But it's also like, honestly, if you can get the echo thing to work, it seems like a good space to podcast from.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like it would be useful to have. And can you paint a word picture for the listeners of what you're seeing from where I am?
Yes, so first I'm seeing Amanda. Say hi, Amanda.
Hi.
And then behind her I see she set up like the strip lights that you get, the LED strip lights that you can get off like Amazon and stuff, and they are doing kind of like a blue-purple bisexual lighting thing on the whole place. That's basically what's going on here.
It's really upsetting because I wanted to make the lights pink because we're going to talk about Barbie, but like the pink looks like purple, so it's just like purple, and that's not Barbie, but whatever.
You know, it's bisexual as Barbie. We can go with that. And then there's a bunch of like the foam stuff that you put on the walls to like muffle the sound that I've completely blanked on what the name of that is. Even though
just
I own those.
Foam panels.
Yeah, like foam
I don't
panels.
know.
And also a bookshelf, and I can't see what books are on there, but there's also plushes and books. And also, I cannot stress that this is all like within the context of what is essentially a dungeon. Like the walls look extremely dungeon-like in a way that's like, yeah, there's a reason we're calling it a dungeon. I mean this with respect and love.
Imagine you're living in Bushwick with 5 roommates. This is the size of your bedroom.
This is, however, a better bedroom than the 16-person entrepreneur house.
Oh yeah, I mean, this, like, in theory, one could sleep down here. It would not be a good bedroom. It is dark. There are no windows. It is, like, somewhat creepy.
What are the odds that a vampire lived here before you?
I would love that. That would be just fantastic.
I'm just saying, this is the perfect place for a vampire to put their coffin.
Yeah, true. And for me right now, it has, like, my yarn, my softball equipment, some stuff I'm saving to give a friend, some books, some Pokemon plushies, you know, very vampire-esque.
Well, What We Do in the Shadows is back, so I would argue that it is.
It's been a big week for vampires. I've been excited because Big Thief released a song called Vampire Empire that I've been like very excited to have come out as a studio version, because I've just been listening to the like live recordings on YouTube, which is not very fun. And I'm excited that we get to have the studio recording, and I did make a vampire playlist on Spotify. Maybe I'll put it up as a Patreon perk. Amanda's vampire playlist, if that's a thing people want. A lot of it is the Twilight soundtrack, but it does get creative. The Twilight soundtrack slaps. Like, also, yesterday I went to the beach, and on the way down, my friend Andrea, who's very into MCR, was explaining the Twilight and MCR connection to our other friend, and like how Gerard Way wrote a song because he was upset that Stephenie Meyer wanted to use his music in Twilight.
Vampire
and
money.
Then 10 years later, he was like, what was I so mad about?
Yeah, Vampire Money. It's a good song though, but also like, why was he so
It's a good song.
I kind of get why he was mad
But why
about
was
it.
he... Yeah, I think he thought that vampires were being appropriated.
I think that if I was Gerard Way and Twilight was happening, I would also feel like vampires are being appropriated. I would be like, that's my thing, and you've turned it Mormon. You know, I feel
Gerard Way is very upset about vampire appropriation. But yeah, so I'm in a dungeon, and yeah, that's what's happening. What else is happening in cinema?
In cinema, so much is happening. Barbenheimer is happening. So, okay, so I'm coming to you live from after 2 days after seeing Barbenheimer, which I went with a bunch of my friends in New York, and it was like, okay, so like this was the first time in my life where like you walk into the girls' bathroom and every single woman in there is wearing pink. Like, not like a light pink, like hot pink. And then everyone's saying like hi Barbie to each other. It was actually adorable.
That's it. Oh my god. Wow.
It was like, so it was really funny because like on the way to the AMC, like what you can see going on is that like any person who is wearing pink is someone who is either coming from or going to Barbie. When we went to go see Oppenheimer, because we did this in sort of like a 6-hour like cinema brain melting experience on Friday night at like 7 p.m. So we started at like 7, and then obviously Oppenheimer is like 3.5 hours long, so we go do that, and then we immediately go to Barbie after. So then this all like wraps up by like 1 in the morning, and we've just like melted our brains.
Oh no.
But there were other people doing this, because you saw there were also people in Oppenheimer dressed to go see Barbie, and you could tell that they were also going to experience the same horrors that we were. And also people with like Barbenheimer t-shirts, you know, the ones that like get posted on Twitter, like that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
So as a social phenomenon, it's like truly actually out there as like something people are doing. I thought it would be an internet meme. I wasn't expecting the extent to which people were participating. Obviously I dressed up and my friends dressed up, and we kind of actually had like sort of a Oppenheimer to Barbie gradient where like Mia was like doing the full Oppenheimer thing, and then like
of course she was,
and then like at the end it's like I was there in like Barbie, the full Barbie getup in hot pink.
I feel like you as a person you're very Barbenheimer, because you're like, I feel like in your day-to-day life you're wearing like skulls and skeletons and like MCR shit, and then you're also like, you love pink.
Yeah, it's pink.
It's pink.
It's pink. You know that one meme that's like, there's a combat boot and under that there's the Pusheen sock? Yeah.
I do like the meme of anything that's black and pink is Barbenheimer now. Like, another life update in my new apartment is this building actually recycles, which it's hard to like, not a lot of places in Philly recycle. It's like a problem. But so I got a recycling bin because I'm excited that I can actually recycle now. And I got a pink one because I was just like, fuck it, it's the same price as the non-pink one. Like, who do you think I am, a boring person? And so now I have this like big like stainless steel trash can, and then this like small little like baby pink recycling bin. And then my friend pointed out, this is Oppenheimer. This is Barbenheimer.
That's Barbenheimer. Like, I do like that that's become a meme in of itself. But okay, so the meme has actually fueled... Let's actually talk metrics for a second, because I think it's interesting, because the meme has actually fueled, like, a box office boom in an environment where you would not expect a box office boom. Because I did look up the stats for this, and I'm looking at The Hollywood Reporter. But basically, on Friday, Barbie started out with, like, 70.5 million, which is pretty good. And early modeling is suggesting that it's headed for like a historic 155 million plus opening domestically, which is usually according to this article and some of the other stuff I've read, it's more for not like, how should I say it, like a girl core weird experience, and more for stuff like the final Harry Potter movie. But it's interesting because I think Barbie is, like, bringing up Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer is also really doing well, because it's doing, like, it did, like, 33 million on Friday, and it's projected for, like, 77 million, which is, like, pretty good for something that's a 3.5 hour, like, niche biopic in some ways. I mean, it's a Christopher Nolan film, right? Like, it's gonna do well. However, because a lot of people, I feel like, are going to see Oppenheimer because of Barbie and not the other way around.
No, for sure. I feel like I probably wouldn't go to see Oppenheimer except that it's a meme. Also because same friend Andrea, who was explaining Vampire Money at like 8 a.m. on the way to the beach yesterday, she's very, very dedicated to getting a group of our friends to see both movies, and made like a massive schedule of all of our Julys and Augusts. But everyone's very busy because it is summer. And the only days that we found that work for everybody are Monday, August 7th, and Wednesday, August 9th. So that's when we're seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you guys got the days together. Like, my friends just decided we would just have, like, a horrible 6 hours. And by horrible, I mean beautiful.
I don't know. I feel like it would be fun to do the double feature, but I feel like I would need to get more excited about Oppenheimer because I'm excited to see Barbie. Oppenheimer, I'm like, yeah, he made the atomic bomb. That was yeah. But I don't know. But Andrea's very excited about Oppenheimer. She's been reading The American Prometheus, which is what it's based on. And then I did get it from Libby, as you might notice on our shared library card, which, as a follow-up to last episode where you talked about your crazy reading a book every day challenge, our shared Libby has been fired.
I feel like I've been, like, downloading the weirdest things on Libby just for this. Okay, here, let's just talk about what's on our shared Libby account right now, and then we can go back to Barbie.
Maybe, like, 2 of them are mine, and then, like, 12 of them are yours.
The problem is that I'll check out a bunch at once, because I'll go on and I'll be like, you know what I need? A lot of books all at once. Okay, so...
Well, you do.
I do. Okay, so I've got Becoming Trader Joe, which actually people should read. Like, I feel like I downloaded it sort of as a bit, and also just because I like nonfiction, but it's mad funny. Like, right, Trader Joe is deranged.
Don't return it yet, because I'll read it.
Okay. I'll leave it there. I've got a bunch of the Redwall books just because I was kind of on a maybe I will reread my childhood classics kick. And then I was going to just read one because I was just going to read Redwall again because you don't understand how much I loved Redwall as a child. Like, that was, like, my first fandom experience as, like, a 7-year-old. And then now I'm kind of just like, maybe I'll read all of them, but I don't think I'm going to count all of them for the challenge because they're all very easy. I downloaded, oh, yeah, you downloaded American Prometheus. I downloaded Black Holes and Baby Universes, a darker shade of magic. And then you've got Saving Time by Jenny Odell, which I'm probably also going to read.
Well, this relates to tree law, which we'll talk about later, because I was talking to my editor about tree law, and she said she's been really into the idea of the urban canopy because of this book. So I was like, yeah, I'll read it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go through the rest of what we have here because it's, like, just a bunch of random stuff. I got Severance out, which is hopefully going to be good.
I really liked Severance.
I haven't read it yet, and I know that I'm going to like it, but I couldn't read it while writing my book because, you know that thing that happens when you're writing something and you're reading something and then it starts to sound like it? Does this happen to you, or you're giving me a look as if I'm crazy here?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think that definitely happens. Like, I think right now I'm reading The Late Americans by Brandon Taylor, which is about an Iowa poetry MFA student kind of, and, like, making fun of academia in a way. I don't know. I'm, like, 15% into it, so who knows. But I did find that I was, like, writing down ideas that were very, like, academia-pilled.
Academia-pilled, Christ. Yeah, anyway, so reading challenge going great. I think I'm at, like, 16 books out of the 23 that I need right now.
Cool.
So, which is pretty good considering we're 23 days in, and then I took a bunch of time off to write my book. So, yeah.
Love when you just write a book in, like, 7 days.
You know, casual. No, I only had to add, like, 10K to it, which is, like, a lot, but, like, it also took me, like, 2 weeks, and that's 2 weeks longer than my agent wanted, but that's okay. I gave him way too short a timeline the first time, and I need to send it to him on Monday. This is nothing. Let's talk about Barbie.
Yeah, well, I do think it is funny that Emmy read the draft. I need to read it. I do really want to read it. And you told Emmy that it didn't count as a full book because it was only 30K so far.
Yeah, it doesn't count as a full book, because our rules for this are that it needs to be, like, a published novel, or, like, something published, and also, like, and then length doesn't matter. In this case, it's not published, but also, like, I know it exists, and I know that it's gonna be a book, but I feel like she should add, like, a novella or something to it to make it, like, at least feel longer. I did say that my fanfiction, me and Allison's 200K fanfiction that someone bound for us and sent us both copies of does count as a book because it is a physical book that I know exists because it sits on my bookshelf. Back to Barbenheimer. So, do you want to hear my reviews of these?
Yes, and as we've established, I have not seen them yet because if I do not see these movies on August 7th and August 9th, I think my friendship with Andrea will be over. The closest this came to happening was when we ordered a pound of dice and did a dice draft, and I had the first pick in the dice draft, and she really wanted what I was gonna pick, and then our friend Dan had to intervene, like, they were, like, mitigating an argument between two toddlers about, like, which flavor ice pop they want.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this sounds like a very 5-year-old argument to, like, especially with the third person intervening.
Yeah, with Dan having to intervene to, like, give me one of their dice so that I felt less bad about giving up the dice that I wanted.
Oh my god. Okay, so
yeah, that's why I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, or Barbie.
Christ. Okay, so I'm gonna say the non-spoiler bits first of these movies, and then I'll say when the spoiler bits start, because I know that you don't care because I asked you about this, but in case the listener does care.
I'm spoiling myself for the content, baby.
Hey. Okay, so I think the correct viewing order is Oppenheimer and then Barbie. I don't think it matters a ton, but I think you'll leave with, like, a better feeling in your life if you do Oppenheimer than Barbie, because Oppenheimer ends on a downer, and then Barbie is Barbie. Like, Barbie is also about death, but, you know. I actually think that these films work really well in comparison to each other. I'll get more into this later. But, like, not to do comparative, like, literature analysis, I think it's actually a very good, like, discussion to talk about these two, and I want to see someone do, like, a film class in 10 years where you have to watch both of these and, like, write a paper. Yeah. I think that would be mad funny.
I took a class in college where we had to watch the 9-hour Holocaust documentary Shoah in one sitting. And I love the idea of that, except instead of watching Shoah, you're watching one sitting of Barbenheimer. That would have probably been a better experience than, like, sitting in these very uncomfortable wooden chairs at the writer's house watching, like, a really sad documentary that is, like, made to traumatize you. But I don't know, man.
Let's talk about, like, the internet discourse a little bit, because I feel like Oppenheimer, both of these have had, like, different degrees of internet discourse, like, after coming out, where, like, Barbie has gotten extremely, like, a hate from the right wing, which I was not expecting, because it's like, she's pretty and pink. It's got the femininity that you asked for.
Yeah, I don't get that, but... Yeah, Ben Shapiro made, like, a 43-minute long video about why he hates Barbie.
Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just kind of like, buddy, it's Barbie. It's on your side of the culture war. But I think it's suffering from the situation where if something gets too pink, now it's too pink. And girls are enjoying it too much. That's what I think is going on emotionally. And also it's like, it's a very feminist message, and also the men are treated like women are treated in film.
So, does the movie pass the reverse Bechdel test? Do two men have a conversation that is not about a
they
woman?
do have No.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. I feel like if you're writing the script of this, you need to, like, consciously be thinking about, would this pass the reverse Bechdel test?
But I'm also kind of like, there is a song in the movie where the Kens all sing, and I think that one might pass the reverse Bechdel test, but also, like, Ken is in relation to Barbie, so anything that's about Ken is sort of about either the presence or absence of Barbie.
Yes, while we're talking about Ken, I do just want to point out that on my dad's blog, Ken's Trends, he wrote a list of top 10 Kens.
What is his top 10? What is his top Ken? Is it him? It better be him.
Barbie Ken. No, he's not on the list, which is a great act of humility. The top human Ken is Ken Jennings.
Of course it is.
Who famously was roommates with Brandon Sanderson.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. I love that your dad did that. That's actually mad cute. I feel like I'm in a parasocial relationship with your dad.
He wanted it to be... Oh, yeah. He wanted it to be on BuzzFeed, and I was like, Dad, no one works at BuzzFeed anymore.
I love your dad wanting to be on BuzzFeed. Internet culture reporter Ken Silberling. Like, so my other hot take about the Barbie movie and why that I think it's like it's overblown in a culture war thing is that I actually think that there's definitely a version of this movie that is way weirder. People were talking about how this movie is, like, not subversive, but, like, oh my god, like, it's different. And I'm like, I think there's a cut of this where the Kens kiss each other. That's a spoiler. The Kens do not kiss each other. It's not very queer other than in a way that, like, fabulous women are queer, if that makes sense. Or, like, at least not overtly queer, and I think that's a very deliberate choice on Mattel's part, where they were like, we can't be gay. We can only suggest it being gay. And I'm like, I kind of get it. I don't like it, but I kind of get what they were going for here, where they were like, we are trying to reach the broadest audience possible, and Greta Gerwig is like, I need to make this insane. And between those two things is where Barbie ends up. On the other hand, Oppenheimer's culture war stuff is on the left. The two things that I've seen people talk about is, why aren't Japanese people portrayed in this? And it's like, why do we need another great man biopic? Which I think is a very fair, like, why did we need to watch something about Oppenheimer? We know what happens here. And I actually don't think the film does anything that's different. It's very well constructed. It's not telling me anything new. You know what I mean? And the other thing is that, like, there's no woman in it. And I'm like, I'm more willing to forgive that sort of thing if it's a historical narrative. Because it's like, maybe, like, if they were sexist back then, if no woman were involved in the development of the atom bomb, you can't just put a woman in there.
But it is really funny that Oppenheimer is so masculine, whereas Barbie is, like, the
oh, yeah, for
opposite.
sure. I think...
Also, Emily Blunt was in Oppenheimer, which I know because there was a Jeopardy category where she was reading clues.
Wait, okay, so the funny thing about that, speaking of Emily Blunt, like, I feel like they just, shook out every single celebrity in Hollywood and just kind of sorted them into Barbie or Oppenheimer, because there were so many random people in Barbie and Oppenheimer that I was just not expecting. Okay, for example, Josh from Drake and Josh. You know, that Josh.
Fuck yeah.
Can you guess which of the movies
I saw
Can you guess which of the movies he's...
Oh,
you
no.
know.
Oh,
why is he in Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
Every time I saw him on screen where he's, like, about to press this button that has to do with, like, the atom bomb test with, like, Trinity, and he's, like, sweating, and I'm like, Josh, why are you here?
Where's Drake?
Where's Drake? He's been drafted.
There's a player on the Cleveland Guardians, the MLB team, named Josh Bell, and it's just a combination of them both. But that's unrelated.
Yeah, so, like, it really felt like they just shook out every, like, person in Hollywood to act in both of these, and it was just kind of like, what, like, are you going to be in Oppenheimer and be sad, or are you going to be in Barbie and have a great time?
But it seems like in Barbie, I mean, I don't know, do you think that Barbie is a happy movie?
Yes, I think Barbie ends well. I think Barbie goes through the horrors, but it ends well. And I also think it's, like, honestly kind of a watered down horrors message, but I might just be saying that because I have the internet brain rot, and because I read weirder things than... I think Barbie, for the mainstream audience, is more depressing than they'd expect, but ends on a good note. Do you know what I mean? Because it's very much like, about... It's kind of like a movie that's like a metaphor for growing up. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, do you guys ever think about dying? Like, you know, like, it's like you're 12 and you're realizing that death exists, that sort of thing.
We should also maybe say, is this the point at which we're gonna go, like,
yes, I was gonna say, like, this is the spoiler point of the podcast.
Before this recording, I was making a Barbie meme, so there's that.
I love that for you. I did see the meme. It's a good meme.
The Barbie meme.
Very niche.
Oh, yeah.
Very niche.
It was me, a friend, and that friend's dog, and it said, this Barbie is on 2 different anti-anxiety medications.
But, like, I feel like that's kind of what Barbie is about, because Barbie is about, like, realizing that the horrors exist. It's interesting because I feel like Barbie and Ken, I've talked this to Allison before, represent the 2 facets of growing up, which is in multiple ways. First, Barbie realizes that, like, death and the horrors and you're a real person. Ken realizes that he really likes horses. These are the 2 things that happen to you when you're 12. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are the 2 things that happen to you when you're, like, 11 or 12. The other part of it is that, like, Barbie is discovering that, oh god, the horrors exist, patriarchy. And Ken is like, sweet, the horrors exist, patriarchy. Because he's, you know, Ken is an accessory to Barbie. But then he discovers that patriarchy exists and that he, as a man, can, like, do things and should be in charge. And then they infect Barbie, and then Ken infects Barbie Land with the patriarchy. But, Ken is actually the villain in the story.
Whoa.
Which is really good. And also, it's really funny because he was only interested in patriarchy because he thought it involved the rule by horses. Like, the horses were in charge.
Oh, no. How did he get to that conclusion?
Well, he checked out a book about horses at the middle school, you see?
Oh, God.
It's really dumb. It's really cute. My hot and worst take about this is that I think Barbie and Ken should have kissed. It does not end with Barbie and Ken together. And I understand that wouldn't have made sense in the context. However, I like love stories. And I think they should have kissed. And also, I'm a misogynist because I came out of this with my favorite character being Ryan Gosling's Ken.
I have heard that, like, I feel like that's been something I've seen people talking about, is that all of the right-wingers are mad because it's like, men suck. But then everyone's coming out of this like, wow, Ryan Gosling really stole the show in Barbie.
Yeah, because he killed it. I mean, he killed it in a way where if you have, like, a good villain, it like, you know, that's the boy you love. And, like,
yeah.
I just found Ken's pathos more interesting than Barbie's pathos, because Barbie's pathos felt like a story that I've seen before. In the girl discovers that things are horrid, decides to embrace the horrors. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I want to be a real girl sort of thing, and that's very much like a growing up story. And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. However, I thought it was really interesting to see a guy who was only made for one purpose, and that purpose is to be an accessory to Barbie. And what do you do when Barbie leaves? And also, what if he just really liked horses? I think I just like it when a guy likes horses. I think that's just funny.
It is a subversion of the horse girl archetype.
He got no because Ken is a horse girl, because it's like, yeah, because like I cannot stress enough that after the patriarchy comes to Barbie Land, you get like the child's idea of what masculinity is, like brought to like this pink pastel experience, and
Beautiful.
It involves so many TVs showing horses.
I feel like when I was a kid, I thought that the pinnacle of masculinity was motorcycles. And I remember saying to my mom, like, oh, Michael, my brother, is going to have a motorcycle one day, right? And she was like, no, I don't want that.
Like, no,
spoiler alert, my brother extremely does not have a motorcycle.
Yeah, because
like... I don't think he has any interest whatsoever in owning a motorcycle. I feel like it would be very out of character for him.
I don't even like know your brother other than by proxy, and I agree with that statement.
He's just some guy, you know. He's just like a nice nerdy guy living his life. I don't know.
Without a motorcycle. Yeah, because I mean, I think what it was that this movie very much makes fun of both, like, oh, boy stuff and girl stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, in a way that's, like, I get why conservatives are mad about it, because it's, like, saying, like, perhaps gender is a construct, but it's also, like, Barbie Land, what I thought was really well done in the movie is that every group of people works according to the rules of their own universe. So, like, everything in Barbie Land is, like, there's no water, because, you know, you don't play usually with water, which I disagree with. There were sometimes liquids involved for my Barbies. Did I take them in the bath? Maybe so. And like stuff like, oh, everything's perfect every day, and like what a job is very much like the child's idea of what a job is. So it works according to kid rules because Barbies are a kid's toy. But then the executives in the Mattel office work according to executive rules. Like there's like so
it's like there's Barbie Land and then there's real world Mattel executives.
Yeah, there's Barbie Land, there's real world, and then there's almost like a third group, which is the Mattel executives, because Mattel works according to Mattel rules, which is like slightly different than the real world in a subtle way. Not even a subtle way, but it's mostly played for laughs, but it's also like, no, this is definitely the way that this works, because which it kind of has an implication that having a job and being an adult in a corporation and being an executive is also playing with toys in the same way that playing with Barbies playing with toys. Do you get what I'm saying there? Which I thought was actually a really interesting suggestion.
I just Googled, has a woman won Best Director before? Which, sad I had to Google that. And I was like, so someone has. But I do think it would be funny if Greta Gerwig won Best Director for Barbie.
Oh yeah, no, that would be hysterical. Honestly, she did a great job. Like a lot of my friends were like mid on Barbie because they were like, what is this about? And I'm like, do you not want to go see a well-constructed fantasy land? Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you people? Because it really did feel like it was a slightly watered-down version of what Greta would have wanted to make in a perfect world.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because, like, so, should I get into the history of, like, why Barbie is, like, why it's weird that this movie got made in the first place? Because I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
but I mean...
like, having not seen the movie, it seems like, I don't know, like, do you think this movie is something that, like, a kid could see with their parents?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool.
It's
but
like...
that's really hard to do as a director, to make something that is, like, really weird and that, like, has actual social commentary, but also is kid-friendly. Yeah, because it'd be really weird to, like, not have kids able to go see Barbie.
No, yeah, like, for sure, I think it's actually pretty kid-appropriate. I think maybe some people would be like, I don't want my kids knowing about, like, genitalia, because there is a whole reference to the fact that there is, like, they don't have any junk. They have no junk.
But then again, it's like, see, this is...
But that's why it's a culture war stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, kids already know that, because presumably they know that they have things there.
I'm gonna be real, I did not. I didn't know that, like, why would I have thought about that?
I don't know, because, like, you're living in your body and, like, you pee. I don't know.
I just kind of accepted that things worked the way they worked, and I never questioned it.
Did you think that you just peed through, like, skin?
No, so, like, the interesting thing is that I also had the Care and Keeping of You book. So I knew that there were holes down there, and I had decided that these were all a later problem. I had no idea that men had a penis.
They kind of are, but, like...
I had no idea that penises existed, you know? So, like...
I mean, I did, because, like, I don't know, like,
No, but see, these are the differences between your parents are conservative Korean people versus not that.
Versus my parents were like, yeah, people have bodies, crazy.
It just literally never came up. It just didn't come up.
I remember when I was little, I saw a dog, and I guess the dog had an erection.
No!
And so, like, it just had this, like, red thing coming out of it. And then I asked about it, and my mom told me. And then another parent was like, oh my god, I can't believe your daughter asked that. And my mom was like, it was a question. She was observing the world around her and was curious why this dog, like, was it, like, because I was like, is the dog okay? Like, oh my god, it's bleeding. Which it wasn't bleeding, but, like, I don't know. And it's, like, see, this is why the right hates us, because I'm like, yeah, people have bodies. Like, yeah, I don't think you should be talking to your 3-year-old about, like, sex, but they should know they have a body.
They should know that they have a body. I think the one thing that I just didn't realize is that other people's bodies were different. Because I was just kind of like, cool, I don't care about what other people have going on.
I feel like that also might be an only child thing.
Yeah, that probably is.
Or only child, like, I don't know. See, now I feel like I'm weird for being like, yeah, I knew that penises existed, but it wasn't, like, in a weird way. It was just that my parents weren't, like, you can never be in the same room as your brother. Like, I don't know.
No, yeah, I mean,
kids are just kids.
I think it's normal. I just, like, I think I was just an unobservant child and also an only child. We got off topic. Anyway, Barbie and Ken do not have any genitalia, and this is, like, not exactly a plot point, but sort of a plot point in the sense that it's, like, you know, like, I want to stay over tonight, and then do what? I don't know. Like, that sort of stuff. Which is, like, I think it's appropriate for kids, and I also think that kids might have an easier time with the movie, because it runs according to kid logic. Like, a lot of it runs according to kid logic in a way that's all, like, it is like a science fiction fantasy movie in that way, where the rules of the universe have been altered for Barbie Land. But yeah, good movie.
I would love to see you write an analysis of, like, as a sci-fi writer, like, there has to be someone writing an essay about the world building of Barbie.
Yo, I will fucking write and pitch that essay.
In this essay, I will.
Honestly, I think that'd be a fun essay for someone to write. I might write it just to put on Tumblr. Maybe I'll pitch it to places.
I can believe it because I've been, like, on Twitter for the last 10 years of my life. Mm-hmm. But I can't believe that there is a culture war over Barbie.
I think, you know what I think it is?
I mean, there was a culture war over M&Ms, like...
That was the funniest thing. They stopped making that M&M sexy enough. No, I think with Barbie, it's very much like like masculinity is a trap, femininity is a trap, step outside your assigned boundaries, that sort of thing. But, like, it was very much just kind of, like, it was one of those movies that has a very wholesome an easy message at the core of it, which is that it's good to grow up. Or, not that it's good to grow up, but it's good to have the choice to grow up. It's good to be able to grow and change. And that things that are scary are not always bad. And also, patriarchy bad. And maybe that's where it went. Maybe that's what it is that the right hates, is the patriarchy bad message. I think there's a secret weirder cut. I think there's a version of this where the Kens kiss, and I think it would have been very easy to put in. Like, there was sexual tension between those Kens. Well, not sexual, they're Kens, they have no junk. But you know what I mean. Like, that sort of thing. Like, there are places where this could have gone further and could have, like, given more, even though it pushed pretty hard. And I could see how, like, if this was not a blockbuster movie, but, like, an indie play, like, this could have been, like, very, very weird. Because it didn't seem that much weirder than, like, weird things I've watched, and less weird than that. So it was weird for blockbuster, but not weird for content I consumed. Does that make sense? I said the word weird there very many times. But
no, for sure. Like, it's pretty clear that because this is a Hollywood blockbuster, of course, you're gonna have to, like, tone it down and not make it this, like, weird avant-garde, like, gender thing.
Right, but I'm, like, not mad about where it ended. I do think it's interesting to watch with Oppenheimer because they're both movies about death. Like, they're both movies about what happens between an idea and the effects it has on society. And also, like, what happens when an idea is so closely tied to either the concept of death or the concept of not knowing what death is. I'm dead serious. Like, it was an interesting juxtaposition.
Well, can a Barbie die?
No, Barbies can't die. Humans can die. An idea lives forever. But this is existential crisis Barbie. This is Barbie who's learned, you know, do you guys ever think about dying? That sort of stuff.
How do they know they can't? Or I don't. Yeah. Now
well,
I'm having an existential crisis.
That's the thing, is that Barbies run under kid laws because every Barbie is tied to a real Barbie in the real world and has a kid who's playing with her. If you think about it too,
I guess you die when your kid outgrows you. Very Toy Story.
No, you don't. You don't die. It's very unclear whether they die or not because everything is perfect. It's every day is the perfect day in Barbie Land, Barbie world. See, like, if you think about it too hard, it starts to fall apart. And that's another thing that I think Gerwig did really well, is that, like, you don't think about these things when you're watching the movie. It just goes. And that's the way that you have to do, like, a good science fiction movie, is that it just goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot more to say about Barbie than
Oppenheimer.
This is
a science fiction movie?
I actually do think it's a science fiction movie, because it's very much like, here is this alternate like, if you think about it too hard, it's like, here is this alternate reality that both affects our reality and is affected by it, that is controlled by this one corporation, and never the twain shall meet. If X comes to Y or Y comes to X, shit starts getting weird. And this is a very classic science fiction setup where it's like, this other world is connected to ours, the weird things will start happening, somebody crosses over, that sort of stuff. It's maybe more fantasy than sci-fi, but in the way that it was, I would say it's more fantasy than sci-fi, but it is very much like a speculative fiction movie, and I would make that case.
I like that.
Yeah, and that's my TED Talk.
I really think you should write an essay about, like, Barbie as sci-fi. Like, I feel like there's a lot more here that would maybe come out with, like, you writing and not talking to me, a person that hasn't seen it.
Maybe so. Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably I will write that essay, and then I will have the weirdest essay published, and it will be great. The other interesting argument is Oppenheimer sci-fi? Because somebody was arguing on Twitter that it might be eligible for Hugo Awards next year. And then somebody was like, it's not sci-fi. It's like, well... And I think that's an interesting question. I don't think it is.
It's a question of, is the real world sci-fi? And I think it sometimes can be.
Yeah. Like, I don't
understand. Because if you think about, like, what's happening with AI right now feels very sci-fi, where, like, you could see a movie being made in the 80s about technology that copies art and is potentially rendering art useless. And then the artists come back and they're like, hey, we're not useless because we have a soul and you don't.
I feel like that must exist. That's got to be out there.
Or even, like, Ready Player One, stuff like, I don't know. I feel like that is a really good question of, like, are we just living in something that could be science fiction now? And, like, is science fiction inherently...
I think about that every day.
Well, I guess, science fiction is inherently fictional, and Oppenheimer just isn't fictional. So maybe is that the answer? Like, are we thinking too hard on this?
We may be thinking too hard about this, but maybe there's an argument here to be made that, like, the portrayal of Oppenheimer in this is science fiction. But it follows a lot of the same science fiction tropes, but it is also, this is just what happened. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, maybe the answer is that science fiction and the real world are very similar things. What's interesting is that you're not the first person to bring up AI in the context of Oppenheimer, which I think speaks a lot to, like, the cultural neurosis around AI in relation to the way that we thought about atomic weapons in the 20th century.
No, yeah, because I think that is the big existential threat right now, is that people are like, will my job exist in 5 years?
Anyway, on that note, we should talk about something that's not movies.
Well,
we should talk about trees.
Well, you know how movies like aren't being made right now because
you know how movies won't exist because of AI?
You know how all the studios are like, we want to use AI, and all the writers and actors are like, maybe that's bad, also you should be paying us better residuals because now everyone is doing streaming and the industry hasn't caught up to make us be paid fairly in the age of streaming. Also trees. That's what's happening in the writer and actor strike, which this is the first time since the 60s that the writers and the actors have been on strike. And so tree law is a thing that happened this week. So in front of the Universal Studios in LA, there were these trees, and people would picket under the trees because in LA there is not a lot of shade and it's like 90 degrees and you're on the concrete, and people wanted to be not like dying of heat exhaustion while they are advocating for their rights. And then one day, this guy, Chris Stevens, a comedian, shows up, and he's like, whoa, the trees just, like, don't have leaves anymore. And
yeah, the trees looked mad horrible.
Yeah. And then so he tweets about it, and it goes viral, and then people are like, what the fuck happened to these trees? I guess, I don't know if you know better about, like, how the $250 thing happened, because that happened, like, yesterday, I think, and I was...
Yeah, I haven't caught up with the $250 thing. I do know that there was, like, originally a $250 fine by the city, and that's just, I think, according to just, like, local regulations. And I don't think that they're trying to get anything more than that. The thing is that tree law, everyone's very excited about tree law because a lot of the time tree law, there is a compounding situation that happens with regards to the damages that need to be paid because of the fact that a lot of the time that you not only have to pay a fine, but you have to replace the tree. You need to, like, maybe, like, fix the stuff around the tree. Essentially, the costs come from the fact that you need to make the situation as it was before you did the damage to the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this case, they're not doing any of the, we must make this stretch of land exactly the same as before, because it's not like the trees were cut down or anything, and it's also, this is just whether the city wants to, city or state or whatever, wants to pursue that line of investigation. In this case, I think it's stopping with the $250. Like in the case before, like a few weeks ago, that people got really excited about, where the guy had like $1 million damages because of he cut down like these 36 trees or something like that. I'm completely mischaracterizing what's
I
going
know
on
the situation
here.
with that. But finish your thought.
So what happened there was that that was between two private property owners essentially, and the damage is compounded there because it was like, bro, you fucked up these trees so bad, and also because these trees were in the specific location, here's XYZ things that you need to do, all of which cost money. So in this case, that's not happening, so people are a little bit disappointed because people were like, oh, perhaps tree law? Perhaps bird law? And the reason that bird law got involved here is because if the trees had been found to have like nests of like specific birds in them, then it's like, buddy, you can't do that. You're fucking up the birds. I'm not going to say the actual specific like regulations because I don't know them off the top of my head, but that was essentially the gist of it. This has also not come to pass. So,
and this is not legal advice.
This is not legal advice. Really what's going on here is that I feel like the actual issue is how bad this makes the studios look.
Yeah.
Like this is a very cartoon supervillain antic for them to do.
And I think that's why people like tree laws, because it is very cartoon supervillain. It's very like the use of tree law to get rich people on technicalities is very like anti-capitalist, like someone used the word plucky, which I think is good, like a plucky little lawyer who's like, haha, these rich people did a bad thing, but I'm gonna get them on this very obscure tree law.
I was gonna say, this is like if you were able to take the Onceler to court, that's what this feels like.
Yeah, and so, for example, like the situation that is also ongoing right now, that tree law people are very excited about, which this also is not the start of tree law. Like, there's a Reddit community with 77,000 people.
Yeah.
That
I
law.
told you about this fucking thing.
I know. Like,
I told you about this fucking Reddit community wrote about for TechCrunch, and I was like, and then I saw your article on Tumblr getting like 10,000 notes.
Really? Okay, cool.
So yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I should have told you. I forgot to tell you.
I'm always worried that like sometimes it's just like people in those communities will be angry just because someone is writing about it. Not so much with that, but this is a little off topic, but I also wrote an article this week about how after AO3 went down from the DDoS attacks, like, people just kept hanging out in the down detector comments for AO3. Like, there's like 100,000 comments for AO3 on down detector, whereas like Google has like 200. But, like, people have just been, like, making a massive group chat on Down Detector. And I haven't checked the comments since I wrote about this, which I just kind of was like, haha, this funny thing is happening on the internet. Publish. Boom. Sometimes that's journalism. But I haven't looked because I'm worried they're going to be like, God damn it, this fucking reporter came in and was, like, blowing up our spot. But, like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
But, like, well, listen, you've done nothing to a tree, so the tree law people must be fine with it.
Yeah, I think in this case, the tree law people are probably fine with it because they're like, good, there is mainstream press about... Is TechCrunch mainstream? There is press about, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's press about people doing a bad thing, and, like, I don't know. But I think people get excited about this because the case that's going on right now, basically, this guy who lives in New Jersey, like near New York City, cut down 32 trees because he wanted to see the skyline better. And then also we're all finding out about this because of a friend of the arborist in the town made a big Twitter thread about it, and people were like, oh my god. But the municipal arborist comes by and notices that, like, not only are these, like, very, very old, mature trees that have been there for probably, like, hundreds of years, and because they're so old, there wasn't a road to get to them, because, like, this is pre-road. And so the only way to replant these trees, first they have to get equally mature trees imported, then they have to build a road to get to where the trees were and replant them. And then, of course, the guy who cut down the trees is like, no, I'm taking you to court. So there's just this, like, whole thing happening over, does this guy owe, like, millions of dollars or not? And people just think that's funny because it's getting comeuppance against rich people in a way that feels satisfying, because it just feels so, like, weirdly evil to be like, let me cut down 32 trees on my neighbor's property without permission. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, it's like 32 trees so I can see the view. Like, that is a cartoon supervillain plot. Like, you know, I think what it is like, tree law is like very... Cutting down trees is like a physical symbol of entitlement. Like, you cut down a tree that's not yours, and then it's like, well, you're... You know, like, it feels wrong, and I think a way that's very, like, it's satisfying to see someone, like, you've done a physical action, now get slapped with these huge monetary fines. I'm kind of sad that that there's gonna only be like a $250 fine for this one, going back to the SAG stuff. But like, I'm not super surprised because this was not a private property thing. This is like on a major road. It's like it would have been harder to compound the damages, but I think the social and emotional toll has already been spoken of because they did donate a bunch of tents for the SAG strikers now. Because it's like, oh shit, we fucked up.
Who donated them?
The studio.
Interesting.
It was literally like after the tree law stuff started going viral, then people were posting on Twitter, and then it came out that it was the studio that donated them after cutting the trees down.
Oh my god.
So it's like, oh, okay, we know what's going on here.
Wow. Yeah.
I think the takeaway here is don't cut down any trees that you're not sure if are yours or not.
Yeah, and then as a lawyer, like, tree law, thoughts?
Tree law. Well, I mean, tree law is interesting. I did actually go look into this a little bit because I was like, maybe I could find something interesting, like, legally speaking on this, but there wasn't a ton that wouldn't have taken like 4 hours to find, so I was like, I give up. This is a podcast. What's interesting, though, is that trees are, like, specifically referenced in, like, the California code, going back to, like, pretty far back. Like, the codes that were referencing in the state law regarding like what you can do to trees was very much like this is like old regulations. This is not regulations from the 2000s or even the 1900s. In some cases, it was like this is baked into the situation, and I guess it was more important back then. It's an offshoot of property law, so it's very much like a don't fuck with other people's property, don't fuck with state property sort of situation. So I feel like tree law is not so much interesting in like how it is regulated, and more interesting in the fact that once you've gotten to the point of going to court over a tree, the whole situation is heinous. You know what I mean?
Yes, for sure. Well, I'm glad that I know about tree law now. I don't know how I didn't before, but the internet is just so vast.
I mean, tree law, I feel like fits into like this. Like, I feel like tree law, the fact that people call it tree law reminds me of the way that people talk about law of the sea. Law of the sea is maritime law. No, you say law of the sea. That's how you say it. And I don't know why. It's like maritime law, but you say law of the sea. Law's weird. Don't be a lawyer. But do join the tree law subreddit. That one's funny.
I also think it kind of scratches the same itch as Am I the Asshole? Like, I think that's why there's these communities, because, like, this situation where it's, like, 32 trees, potentially millions of dollars, like, that's not something that happens often, but then a lot of this is, like, neighbor disputes. Like, I feel like it's stuff that would be a normal gossip episode.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think you hit the nail on the head with the Am I the Asshole thing. But the other thing about this is it's always clear who the asshole is. It's the guy who cut down the tree.
And I think that's why people like it, is that it's comforting when you very clearly know who the asshole is, and then you and a bunch of people on the internet are like, LMAO.
Okay, we're done with trees. Let's talk about girl dinner. I don't have a good segue.
Well, it would have been a good segue from Barbie, because I feel like it's kind of related to Barbie and, like, the pressures of femininity. But also,
you know what? Sometimes the pressure to femininity is to have a perfect podcast episode every single time and to have a perfect segue, but you can't always have a perfect segue.
Yeah,
sometimes you just say, so we're done with tree law. Now we're talking about girl dinner.
The pressure of femininity is when you're trying to make sure that your podcast dungeon is very echo-proof, but like, you only just moved in here 2 weeks ago, and there's only so much you can do so far, and it's kind of expensive, so you wanted to, like, record an episode of the podcast before ordering more panels. However, I did find pink sound panels on Amazon.
Gotta get those.
And they are cheaper than the other colors, probably because no one wants to buy them, but I'm like, I don't care if they look gaudy, they're in my dungeon.
Yeah, they're in your podcast dungeon. I think pink would be very slay in your podcast dungeon.
Me too.
But yeah, girl dinner. Girl dinner is weird because to me, girl dinner falls in a specific intersection of, are you being a rat or do you have an eating disorder? And girl dinner, what is girl dinner? Because I feel like people have not come to a consensus on what girl dinner is, other than it's an audio that people play over TikTok.
Yeah, it's an audio that goes like, girl dinner, girl dinner. And my interpretation of it is that it's when you're having a dinner that does not require cooking anything, or if it does require cooking, it's like Kraft mac and cheese.
See, I don't think you can make Kraft mac and cheese. I think you have to totally just not cook it. I think it has to be entirely ready to eat items that only require either washing, like a quick rinse, or a taking out of a package.
Okay, so the example of this is like if you essentially eat an adult Lunchable for dinner. Like, if you have, like, some cold cuts and some cheese and some crackers and maybe some fruit, maybe some vegetables, like, just, like, a I keep saying this wrong, a charcuterie board just essentially for dinner.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think you're hitting all your, like, nutritional groups, whatever. Like, that can be a dinner. Like, that is enough food if the charcuterie board is big enough that it will, like, sustain you.
I also think that a tub of hummus and crackers is girl dinner.
Oh yeah, that's definitely girl dinner.
Yeah, that's girl dinner.
But so here's the difference. It's like, so I don't know. I'm like very sensitive to like subtle promotions of eating disorders on the internet. And I kind of am like skeptical about girl dinner falling into that, because it's like the eating a container of hummus and pretzel, maybe not the whole container, but like that is girl dinner to me, because it's like, fuck, I have no time. I'm so exhausted. I just need to, like, eat something. And honestly, with that, it's like, fine. You're getting some protein. You're getting some carbs. You're eating. But,
I don't know if it's... Okay, do you think girl dinner... Sorry to pause. I'm pausing you. do you think girl dinner is about exhaustion, or do you think girl dinner is just about not caring? Because my interpretation was that girl dinner is about, like, what you eat when nobody else is around, in the same way that, like, the girl dinner to me is the same variety of, like, thing in your life as, like, the bachelor fridge that only has condiments and beer.
Yes.
Where it's like, this is, like, the minimum, like, nobody else is around. This is the minimum that I want. I don't actually want anything better than this. I'm a rat.
Yeah, for sure. But I think sometimes I have seen people use girl dinner as being like, haha, I am eating, like, a single tortilla for dinner, and that's girl dinner. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, no, if you're doing that regularly, that is a sign that something is wrong, like, physically or psychologically. And I don't know, like, I am absolutely all for people eating, like, just, and also it's like, this is a rebrand of something that already exists. It's like, I've heard this called plate of snacks. I've heard this called adult Lunchables. I've heard this called a charcuterie board. Like, it's just a bunch of stuff on a plate, and that's fine. You can eat that. Like, but I do think, on one hand, I don't think it is, like, promoting eating disorders if someone eats pasta with butter for dinner. Like, sometimes that's just all you can muster.
Yeah, but that's not girl dinner. You have to cook that.
Okay.
That's my theory.
See, I feel like my girl dinner is just pasta and butter.
My girl dinner is, like, I eat, like, half a bag of popcorn and also a cheese stick and whatever else is in my fridge.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm so, like, I don't know. I find girl dinner interesting because I'm so torn on it, because I'm like, I don't want to say it's promoting eating disorders, but I think it could be twisted in such a way that it does.
Yeah, but I feel like that's, like, a lot of things. Like, you know, like,
yeah,
doing healthy shit is, like, you know what I mean? Where it's, like, you can't win either way, where it's, like, somebody will twist it to be an eating disorder thing, because it's, like, doing healthy stuff, that leads to the eating disorder route. Doing unhealthy stuff, that leads to the eating disorder route. Like, and, like, I just feel like that's unrelated. I think girl dinner is chuggy. I think by the time we're actually talking about girl dinner right now, it is already over. It is dead. It is nothing.
Oh, I think the entire time this has been, like millennials who think that The Office is funny kind of thing.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, so, like, I mean, we're talking about it because I feel like it's an internet phenomenon, which is, I did not expect it to spread as far as it did on Twitter. I mean, not Twitter, on TikTok. Yeah. But it has, which I feel like is why we talk about it. The Today Show did a segment on it. Oh, Christ. Okay, yeah. So, like,
yeah, and it was like, how to copy, like, no. Like, I don't know, like, and, like, their girl dinners were, like, tortilla, cheese, cold cut, microwave, which, like, that's fine. Like, that's a sandwich. You're eating that's a sandwich. Things. Like,
I don't think that's girl dinner. I think that's just you're making a bad sandwich.
Yeah. But I guess some people have said it's, like, a commentary on, like, the pressures on women or whatever, because it's, like, by the time you're done taking care of everyone else, it's, like, how do I cook dinner for myself? I guess I'll just, like, take some cheese and some crackers and some random grapes and just, like, eat a bunch of that until I'm full.
I mean, like, honestly, I think what it is, like, my theory is that this goes to, like, a deeper situation, which is that, like, you're always willing to take better care of other people than you are yourself. And I don't even think this is, like, to some extent, I don't even think this is gendered, but it is gendered in the fact that I think that more women do the cooking. But it's like, if I'm home with my parents, I will eat, like, actual dinner. If I'm, like, with my friends, and I will cook something for them sometimes. Yeah. Or, like, we will get food or something, and it's like, I will eat, like, an actual dinner. If I'm by myself, I don't fucking want to cook for me. Like, I know what I will accept. I will accept a way lower range than I would give to another person. And I think that's kind of what girl dinner is about.
See, I think this is where I kind of resent the stereotype of, like, all Tauruses love food, because it's just like, yeah, everyone likes food. But I think it's very Taurus of me that I'm like, if I'm eating something, I want it to be good. Like, I want to enjoy what I am eating.
No, I mean, but, like I'll eat something and I'll like it, but it's not the thing that I would give to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, it's,
but
like...
I do like cooking for myself, but generally if I'm cooking for myself, I'm cooking enough of it that it's like I'm cooking for myself and my future self and my future self. But no, I had a friend stay with me for a couple of days this week, and I was so in, like, Jewish mom mode. I was like, oh my God, I'm literally being my mom right now. Like, the things that my mom does that annoy me are what I'm doing to my friend. Like, things that'll, like, my mom will be like, we're, like, this is obviously a fake example, but it's like you're about to fall off a cliff and you're like holding on for dear life. And then she's like, oh, by the way, you should probably make an eye doctor appointment soon. And I'm like, I am like falling off this cliff trying to like claw my way back. And then it was like my friend was over like going through like a dramatic life event that is resulting in her moving and needing a place to stay for a little bit. And then I was like, oh, do you have utensils? Like, we should go to the thrift store down the street and, like, buy a bunch of utensils. And I'm like, wait, why am I doing this to her? Like, what?
I love how, I feel like a major part of the Barbie movie, a major part of womanhood that the Barbie movie did not address is the fact that you become your mother.
Oh, I've always already been very similar to my mother, and that is why we sometimes butt heads, because we are, like, the same. But... yeah, like, when my friend was here, I was just Jewish momming so hard. She was sleeping on an air mattress, and you know how, like, in the hotels, you'll get, like, a tiny little chocolate? I kept putting...
Did you give her a tiny little chocolate? That's adorable.
Because I had the, like, Trader Joe's, like, little, like, Reese's cups, and then, like, she went to work, and then while she was gone, I just, like, put another chocolate on the bed.
Wait, that's so cute. I had, like, a party last week because one of my friends wanted to grill. Wait, okay, to talk about, like, gender roles very briefly. So I had some friends over for chilling, and then one of my friends realized that my place has, like, a grill. And 30 minutes after, he sends me, like, a Facebook message, like, Isabel, can I come over and use your grill? And I was like, this is the most straight man thing that anyone has ever said to me. Like, 30 minutes after you realize that a grill exists, you want to grill. So obviously we had a barbecue party.
Fuck yeah.
But me and him were like
party?
me and him were like at the grocery store, and then we had this like we realized that we were being extremely Asian about it because we were like, oh god, what if we have enough food we need more food, because if people leave hungry, we fucking failed. Yeah. Which is just like I don't know. One of my friends was like, whenever I come over to your place, you always offer me food. And I'm like, I do that to people. I am turning into my mom.
The gender roles reminds me of when we were on the island, which if you don't know what that is, listen to episode 69. Nice.
Nice.
When you and I, because we like cooking, would be like, let's cook food. And because there's a bunch of people here, why not just make a bunch of it? And then afterward, we'd be like, ugh. Of course, we're the woman doing the cooking for the men. And it was like, no, we were like, hey, you know what would be fun right now? Cooking something.
It's like, no, we just wanted pancakes with fruit. Like,
if you're making pancakes for 2 people and you're on an island with 30 people, just make the whole box of pancakes. It's not that hard.
Because somebody will eat it. I will say that I did use a lot of, like, I cooked, now make somebody else clean a thing.
Oh, yeah, that's...
like, I did abuse that egregiously.
Yeah, that's my favorite way of manipulating people.
Yeah.
Is to, like, guilt people into cleaning because you cooked for them. Because
anyway,
I hate cleaning, but I love cooking.
Yeah, same. Like, I just need somebody who will clean it up, and I will cook whatever. I will say that I feel like this segment has made it sound like I don't cook for myself, which I do cook for myself. However, I only cook for myself for, like, 3 months at a time, and then I forget that I know how to cook, and then I won't cook for 2 months, and then I'll do it again, and I'll be like, wait a minute. I forgot that I actually like my own food. Anyway.
Yeah. Some people don't like to cook, and that's when girl dinner happens.
Mm-hmm. What's your like normal girl dinner according to your rules? You don't have to use my extremely rigid rules of girl dinner.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like my girl dinner is just like, actually, you know what my girl dinner is? It's Trader Joe's ravioli.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I feel like it's more my girl lunch. Because I think for me, the difficult meal is lunch. Because breakfast, I usually, like, make something ahead of time. That, like, overnight oats is my... I'm the kind of person where, like, I'm so not a morning person. Although I've weirdly been waking up at, like, 7 every day because I have sunlight in my apartment now. Crazy. But I need everything to be prepared as, like, quickly as possible. So that overnight oats are great because... they fill me up, I think they taste good, and I don't have to do anything in the morning except open a container. And then dinner, usually it's like after work, and I have a bit of time to be like, what do I have in the fridge? Yeah, I could like cook something. But lunch, I'm like, in the middle of work, probably like fairly reporting on something, or like sometimes I go to Pilates in the middle of the day and that's my lunch break, and then I come home and I'm like, shit, I'm supposed to be working, but I do need to make lunch. And that's when I make Trader Joe's ravioli, because you boil it, you just eat it, and it is like, I don't know, there's some vegetables in there, I guess.
It's got a little protein inside.
It's also funny because like something I've been talking about for years is depression meals, which depression meals, the ultimate depression meal is takeout. But if you don't have the money for takeout, then you need to figure out, how can I make food that like at least somewhat has the nutrients I need and will fill me up, but is as easy as possible. And I think the peak version of that is roasted vegetables and pasta. Roasting vegetables is underrated as hell. You literally just put it in the oven and you don't do anything to it. And then pasta, like, that's so easy. And then there you go. Like, yeah,
that's already your cooking. That's already 2 devices. It's already 2 devices, man.
See, man. Yeah, I don't know. I guess my girl dinner would be like probably just like eating a bunch of hummus. Or like eating a bunch of cheese.
I feel like a handful of cheese is like a classic girl dinner. But like, that's not dinner. That's like a weird little snack you're doing to yourself.
I would rather eat a bunch of cheese than a bunch of hummus, but then I know that if I eat enough cheese, that the cheese alone would fill me up as a meal. My stomach, I'm Jewish.
I think my latest girl dinner was when I went to go see Barbie, and I was running late. So what I had for dinner was I had a chocolate crepe thing that you get from Costco, and those are very good if you have a Costco in the area, that my mom got me. I had a cheese stick, a bottle of seltzer, which I drank half of and then filled the other half with Pink Whitney, because we were going to go see the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer, and I felt like we were smuggling drinks in, obviously.
Yeah.
And half of a family-sized tub of popcorn that I shared with the 2 boys next to me. And also some M&Ms.
Yeah, that's a girl dinner.
It was truly a girl dinner, especially since like half of it was truly the popcorn, which I kind of justified was like, this is like 400 calories and it's fiber and it could be a worse thing to be eating.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I think anything you eat is better than not eating.
Yeah, but it was very funny because I bought it and they were like, Isabel, why did you get the family size thing? And I was like, because it's $1 more. It's already like $8 for popcorn. It's $9 if you want to get twice as much popcorn. And I know you guys are going to steal it from me. Yeah. And they did. They both stole it from me.
I think you're very smart.
And I was right.
Yes.
I'm so smart. I am an artistic genius, unappreciated in this time.
You are. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the bottom line is like, I think in some ways it is comforting to see that like, oh, you're not a failure of an adult if sometimes you have a girl dinner, because sometimes everybody has a girl dinner. But I think the line is when, like, are we glorifying girl dinner? I don't know, because it feels very Republican to be like, this internet trend is glorifying thing, when sometimes it's just people being like, LMAO, I'm so tired, so I just ate a bunch of crackers for dinner, which is not great, but yeah, that stuff inevitably happens because we're all human, and sometimes you just cannot make yourself food, and like,
yeah, like sometimes you make yourself dinner, sometimes you make yourself girl dinner, and like, I feel like as long as you're not making yourself girl dinner every night, because you should know how to cook as an adult, like that's an important life skill and it'll enhance your life, it's probably fine. I don't know, weirdly enough, this is making me hungry, so we've been talking about food and now I want to go eat lunch, even though it's 10:44. So yeah, on that note, if you like this episode, tell a friend. Word of mouth is how we grow. Thank you to all of our patrons, and shout out specifically to Zoe, Brea, Andromeda, Thea, Brian, Gabriel, Lotta, Matt, Max, my sugar daddy Sam, and Aaron's husband. If you want your name in the above or in our Twitter header, slide right into our Patreon at patreon.com/wowiftrue. Shout out to audio editors Allison Mills and David Newtown, graphic designer and Canada Warlock Eric Silver, who made our logo, Sam Rizer, who made our podcast music, and Tessa Farrow, who is transcribing our episodes. You can find us on Twitter as @wowifTruePod and Instagram and Facebook as @wowiftrue. Had your 15 seconds of internet fame? Slide right into our Twitter DMs and tell us about it. And until next time, let's get weird on the internet.